Welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher.
So let's jump right into it.
We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. What is going on, YouTube? This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and welcome back to another live stream. I haven't done one of these in a while. It's probably been about a month or so, and probably before that, it's been even longer. I've had a lot of stuff on my plate, a lot going on, but I figured why not jump on and do a live stream tonight. Now, the original idea for this live stream was I was going to get a dealer and I was going to get a collector to come on the show with me just to talk about some comics, talk about what books are better buys right now in the state of the market. However, with there's being cons right now in Toronto and all over the place, I couldn't get any dealers to come on with me. I had a few collectors message me, but I figured since I couldn't get the dealers out there, I might as well just come on by myself for now. But possibly later on the show, if anybody's interested in joining me, I will send you guys a StreamYard link and we can talk about some comics. But I'm going to open this up to people in there in the chat when they show up, and we'll talk about books. I have some topics that I also came prepared with. The stuff that's going on, of course, at the grading companies, CGC, CBCS, that whole acetate gate, I kind of have my own opinion on. And I've kind of stayed out of the spotlight on this thing because it's not really anything that I concern myself usually with, because I don't collect new books or variant covers. But hey, why not? Let's jump on this thing and let's tackle all the topics out there in the comic book community. Of course, I have some other stuff that I want to go over as well, but like I said, when we get some people in the chat, we're going to start rolling. But for now, I figured we just sit back, relax, see who pops in, and we'll just we'll talk some comics. So I want to say hello to my guy, Rye Guy. What's going on, brother? I know you're not feeling too great, but hang out, come join the chat, watch the video, and we'll go from there. But if any of you guys haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock for the past, I don't know, month or so, there's so much drama going out there in the comic book community that it's just really a lot to take in. And we're going to start with the thing that I heard most recently, and that is, of course, the stuff going on at CBCS. Now, I have my own opinion on this because I kind of had something happen to me when I used them way back when. But we're going to start with the fact that CBCS lost about 360 some odd books from one customer, which to me is boggles my mind how you could lose that many books. What does that tell you? I've heard that at one point they were mailing books out from their own facility to employees to kind of grade the books and send them back. Not too sure how that works, but obviously very dangerous with mailing other people's books. If they're not properly, kept, they could get damaged. They can get swapped by other people if they could get those books, in the mail, so on and so forth. Just crazy stuff that I was hearing from this thing that got leaked. Now, I will say this. I want to share my experience with CBCS, and it was a long time ago, unfortunately. You guys haven't heard, CBCS just recently moved. And I'm going to say again, because they did this in the past. I want to say right when I got back into collecting about 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a local show in my area and I decided to bring some of my raw books to get graded. Now, at that point, I was deciding between CGC, CBCS, and PGX. Now, I had used CGC way back when I was collecting, and I don't remember having a bad experience other than the fact way back when I thought they were a little harsh on my books. But regardless, I decided to go with CBCS only for the fact that they were going to be at a local show and CGC wasn't, so I could drop off my books at that show. This way I didn't have to mail them, and I felt completely safe doing so after talking to the representatives that were there. They assured me that, the books should be graded at the proper allotment time, which was, one of them was a Major Grail, a Fantastic Four #1, believe it or not, a raw copy. And they said usually it's about a 2-week turnaround on books like this. There were other books in there too, some smaller keys that I had graded at that time, but probably turnaround time should have been 2 or 3 months tops. Now I get no email or update after I've dropped my books off for like a couple of months. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I ended up emailing them and saying, hey, I haven't heard anything on my books. What is going on? They sent me an email back saying, we're moving our facilities. Bear with us. We don't have tracking for all the books right now. And I was like, what? You guys knew you were moving and you didn't say a word to me at this con. Let me know, hey, you have my books. You have my Fantastic Four #1, which is a giant key that I left in your hands. And you didn't tell me that you were moving and things were going to be delayed. right off the bat. I was annoyed after hearing that. And believe it or not, it took almost a year for most of those books to come back. Now, the FF1 did come back probably in about 3 to 4 months, after I dropped it off, which is still when it's supposed to be a 2-week time period and it comes back 3 to 4 months later, you knew I was pissed. But now to hear this again, that they're moving again and the same thing is happening, I thank the Lord that they didn't lose my books. I feel so bad for this person that is going through this ordeal. And from what I'm hearing, some of the books are his and some of the books are people that he sent in through his business. And I feel so bad for everybody involved. I don't know how you do that. I know they made an announcement recently that they moved, but how do you not tell the people, hey, if you don't feel comfortable sending your books right now until we get settled in our new spot, hold off from sending submissions? That is the right thing to do, in my opinion. I wouldn't be just not saying a word and then, hey, we just moved our offices. This is the new address to send stuff. That is just crazy to me. And again, losing 360 something books, is just a disaster. I don't even know what I do. I'd be losing my mind right now if I had big books in there, big dollar amount books in there. I'd be losing my freaking mind. So again, I wanted to just share my story because this has happened to me before with CBCS. So I will say that second time they've done it. I know Steve Borak. I don't know him personally, but I know he recently left the company. He's the one who started it. Now it's owned by Beckett, now owned by a bigger company as well. So I don't like dealing with huge companies. I'm in the pharmaceutical industry and, we have our own independent business. Share from your personal experience out there. I know it has nothing to do with comics, but you walk into a CVS or Walgreens and they tell you, it's going to take you forever to fill a prescription, or you're waiting online for like an hour to pick something up. It's the same thing. The big companies, they don't treat the little man as they should. And that's all I'm going to say about it. So I'm moving on from CBCS. I'm happy that I use CGC. I know they have their own issues going on, but we're going to get into that in just a little bit. I want to welcome everybody that is in the chat right now. I said hello to my boy Rye Guy. DZE2, what is going on? How are you, man? Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. I got Aaron Berger in the house. Sounds like they had an employee grading him in his living room. That is what I'm hearing, man. That is what I heard, that they were mailing books out to, representatives in the company to have them grade, which to me is insane because I saw Dave from Comic Book Advancements. He brought up a great point. How about if somebody's at home grading a book and then they spill something on it, or they're watching TV, not paying attention, they're eating lunch, and then all of a sudden something happens? It's just a disaster waiting to happen. And when you hear stories like that, it's just like, it makes you think, like, why am I sending books in to be graded, right? That's what I do. Anyway, I got my boy Matthew Wright. What's up? What's going on, man? Thanks for joining me tonight. Kenneth Bird, hello to everyone who's here tonight. What is up? DZ2 said, I've been waiting almost a year for 2 ASM keys from CGC. First time and really turned off to ever send in books again. I do not blame you. My question is, how big were the keys? You don't have to say the books, but were they, give me the dollar amounts? Were they $100 books or were they $1,000 books? Just pay me somewhere in between. Because that, to me, I've been sending stuff to CGC. It did something a little while ago. They've come back, generally on time. Recently, I know they were backlogged forever. And during that time, I really didn't send anything out just for that reason. Because I was hearing such, horror stories. But I hope you get your books back quick, man. It is really freaking a pain in the butt, with everything that's going on. My boy Omega, what is going on? I'm going to throw him a shout out because I know he's getting started in the YouTube thing. So he's going to be probably throwing out some content real soon if he hasn't already. I haven't seen him throwing anything yet, but I know he's getting started. So, brother, I can't wait. Let me know when you're going to drop your first video so I can come in the chat and harass you. Just kidding. I want to come out and, of course, support the channel. One Shot Comics with Noob here. Hey, nerds. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining us. Ray Guevara. Hello, bud. How are you? 500 or so. To me, they should have been back a long time ago. That is crazy. For you to wait that long for a $500 key, that is way too long. I've been sending $500 books in, and I'm getting them back about 3 months. So I don't know what to tell you. Hopefully they haven't lost these things, but I've heard that before. But I think you're all right. I just think they're probably, pushed so far back, and they just haven't gotten to the books that have been, far back that long. But either way, it's inexcusable. I wouldn't send anything if I knew that was going to be that long. That's for sure. I had an order with CGC that I sent in early 2021 before they changed pricing for the quick press. Took about 16 months to get the books back. Glad to see times have gone down. That's where I heard some of the delay was coming from, was the pressing. So, I mean, this is hearsay. That's what I heard. I don't press my books using CGC. I press them myself because one, I don't like that they mail their books to some other place to get them pressed and then sent back to CGC to get them graded. I would like it all to be done in one spot. So I figured, let me press my books myself. Even I'm not the greatest at doing it, and I think I'm pretty good, but I only, press, silver, bronze, copper. I don't really collect too many modern books. I did do my Ultimate Fallout 4, which came back in 9.4. Then I did it again, and it came back in 9.6. And my Edge of Spider-Verse 2, which came back in 9.8, which I was happy to. And I've sold both of those books recently because I wanted to have some cash back in the bank to kind of buy some other stuff. There is literally nothing enjoyable about the grading process. I agree with you, dude. If you guys have been watching my channel for the better part of a year, I've been saying I have been picking up a lot of raw books. Now, I've graded some of those books for protection. I've graded some of them because I thought that it was a better grade than what I thought they said when I bought it. And I've also graded books because I want to sell them. A lot of people only will buy graded books, which to me I think is crazy, but I understand that thought process because if they're not the best grader themselves, hard to spot, restoration on raw books, stuff like that. I totally understand that. So if they feel safer buying a graded book, that's why I kind of graded some of the things. So kind of it's easier for other people to sell. Even though I got to be honest, I think I have a great track record with selling books. I have a lot of references out there for anybody that wants to buy books. But either way, I'm glad to see some of the turnaround times are getting better. But all the stuff that's going on with these companies has me a little, scared to kind of do things, right? So just keep that in mind. The one thing I will mention, guys, if you haven't checked out my website, mightycollects.com, I do have some books for sale up there. I have a ton of stuff that I've been meaning to list. I just haven't had a time to do it, but I got to get my head on straight with doing that stuff. I've just been so busy and so much going on, but I promise you, I will get that stuff uploaded as soon as I can. I don't mind buying graded because the resale is easy. Nothing beats finding a nice raw in the wild. I got to be honest with you, that's one of the best joys that I have is buying a raw book in the wild. Now, I am fortunate enough where I have a couple of really great LCSs in my area that I'm able to pick up books from. One is right in my hometown, Gotham Underground Comics. I'm also going to be setting up there again. I did it about a month or so ago. I'm going to be setting up there on September 10th. If you want to come by and check it out, I have books for sale. I have some, merchandise as well, but I'm just hanging out, talking comics to everybody out there from my area. So stop by September 10th, Gotham Underground, Ramsey, New Jersey. And Zap Comics, they are a fabulous, I'm talking fabulous comic store that has been around for 20 plus years. I think a lot of people out there in the community, even if they don't live in my area in New Jersey, people still get books from them. I have my man Errol out in Australia buy books from them and has him mail them out there. So, I mean, they do a really awesome job. I always give them a shout out when I can as well. But if you're ever in my area, like I said, check both of those places out. They're amazing. So we're going to get into the chat a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about tonight. So we talked about CBCS and what the frick is going on there. Insanity is what that's going on, losing 300 and some odd books. Now we're going to go to CGC. We're going to talk about that stupid acetate cover that everybody was talking about for the past month or so. And I literally stayed away from talking about it because, one, I don't collect variant covers. I don't collect modern books for the most part. If I buy a modern book, it's because I want to read it. And I got to be honest, most of the characters I follow, some of the crap that comes out, some of these new books, it's really not worth reading for me. I miss the old stories by Stan Lee. That's what I grew up reading. Silver Age books that I was able to buy cheap, of course, back then. Bronze Age books, stuff like that. That wasn't Stan, but some of that stuff is one I don't want to reach. Spider-Man books right now are terrible. The modern stuff right now is awful to read. I pick up one book and I'm like, oh, I can't even read this. Some of the Punisher stuff is okay, and the Hulk stuff was good, and now it's kind of fallen off, so I've kind of stayed away from that as well. Those are the really characters, these three besides Batman, and that has fallen off as well. But the acetate thing, man, I got to be honest with you, the whole CGC made a big mistake by pre-grading those things ahead of time and not thinking about the repercussions. They're grading these things at 9.9 and 10s without even realizing that, hey, they're manufactured covers on a reprint. How could we label that, a blue label? Now, of course, they're switching and going back to a green label, but the damage has been done. And if after you've raised prices twice, after you've, made mistakes with books, cracked cases, bad shipping, now they do this. It's disheartening for collectors out there. Now, I will say this in defense of people like me, people who collect like me, stuff like that. I don't collect that book, so it doesn't really affect me, right? For the people out there who collect modern books and they collect variants and that's their thing, man, I feel so bad for you guys because I think you are being had, right? A lot of this stuff is pushed by some of these, people out there that the prices rise so quickly because there's such a demand in the beginning. And then maybe about a month or two later, these things drop like a freaking rock and you're left holding the bag. So I've always stated on my channel, if you're going to buy stuff, buy the stuff that is tried and true. We have silver that is, to me, the best era of collecting comics there is. Some of the best stories have been written, some of the greatest characters. And then we'll go to bronze, and I love the artwork from the Bronze Age. Some of my favorite artists are from there because I love the artistry from that era. To me, even the Copper Age was such a great time for collecting comics. It's when I grew up. So I have an attachment to that. Now, if you have an attachment, if you're a younger kid and out there and you're collecting the modern stuff, I totally get it. But are you grading books if you're a kid out there right now? Probably not. I hope you're not. Anyway, keep the things in a Mylar, in your short box, read the thing when you want, and you will be happy regardless. I'm going to take a break and come back to this in 1 second because there's further I want to talk about this, but I want to read some of the comments in the chat. I had an order with CGC that I sent in early 2012 for the channel. I said that already. There we go. Rye guy. Jeez. Okay, let's see where I left off. Hello. Has CGC done any on-site grading since COVID? Only way I feel comfortable enough to have my grills graded. I think they have. I think I want to say San Diego Comic-Con did it or one of the shows before that. I think they did on-site grading. I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% on that. I haven't been to a show in my area where they've done it. So, but I've heard some of the other shows out there, and I think on the West Coast they have done. You ever been to Stash, the Kevin Smith store? I have not. Where is that? Is it in NYC? Is it in Westchester? Let me know there, DZE. Jersey here, Gloucester County, lots of LCSs. That's awesome. One shot. Let me know some of your favorite LCSs down by where you are, because you never know. I actually went to school in Philadelphia, so right down in South Jersey. I used to, be all over that area near Cherry Hill, stuff like that. So anytime I visit down there, if you guys have LCSs, if you know of in that area that I should visit, drop me comments down below. This way I can kind of check them out. Cannabis and comics. Welcome to war. The craziness of the stories about CGC, CBCS coming out this week have been out the gate. I'm leaning towards buying them graded instead of submitting to any more. I don't blame you. I do not blame you. But let me ask you this. What about buying raw and leaving them raw? Is that an option for you, or you don't want to do that? I mean, I know some of you guys have checked out my video. I did not a room tour, but I went through a how I store some of my comics on my walls. You guys see the graded stuff behind me, but I have a nice raw wall in front of me as well. If you haven't checked out that video, you can still, check out your raw books on walls if that's your thing and you want to look at some of your raw books. I get it. Sometimes slabs are easier to sell. They're easy to display, but a raw wall is pretty cool. I saw on eBay people are still bidding insane amounts on these books. Dude, it is absolutely insane. I don't get it. It's the same people that driving up prices anywhere. eBay, you got to be careful because I don't know what's a fake bid. I don't know what's a real bid. I don't know if it's two people going back and forth who's driving up the price. You have to be careful on eBay, but I don't get it either with the modern stuff, especially something like this, that it's just a reprint, man. It's a reprint with a fake cover that Marvel even said it. They weren't even aware of they were doing this, and they should have been doing this, to be honest with you. I don't collect much monorail either, but is there a single show exclusive variant that remains significant a year or so later? I'm the wrong guy to ask because I don't collect those things. Now, listen, one of the topics tonight I'm going to be going over is New York Comic Con because I'm going to be going to New York Comic Con this year, and I haven't been since the first show ever in NYCC. So we're going to get into that later in the show, and we're going to go over exclusive stuff, because I don't mind if you go to a show and you want to spend a little cash on exclusive stuff like that. It's an experience. So I totally get it. But then to buy that, turn around and try to just pump up the volume and sell the thing for massive amounts of money, that's not why I would do it. I'm going to buy an exclusive from any type of show, like a big show like SDCC or NYCC. It's to keep that, hey, that's a memory from what I went to this show. That's it. And I'm not spending a ridiculous amount of money on that stuff. I tell you that right now. I think that acetate cover was $75 they paid. I'm not even spending that. I'm sorry. I won't spend $75 on a book that's not important to me. Red Bank. All right, cool. I've been to Red Bank too. They got some great restaurants over in that area. The art from the Golden Age horror comics was insane and amazing. I agree with you. Two of the best covers I've ever seen, Tomb of Terror 15 and Black Cat Mystery 50 were two of my favorites. I've owned both of those in the past, but I've said before, they're some of the best art you'll ever see, but the appreciation is not quick enough for me. I sold them because I saw Marvel books were appreciating so much quicker and I didn't have too much of an attachment to them. So I was right in that aspect, and I could always add them back later, even though they are scarce books. I collect Doctor Doom Silver Age Raws because I don't intend on ever selling them, but anything else is just peace of mind for buying and selling via graded. Yeah, I think that's the consensus most people say is that it's easier to sell because there's no, there's no disputing what they're saying, even though technically with some of the stuff that's been coming out, I guess you could dispute some of the grades that you're seeing. But other than that, I think people do have peace of mind regardless. Crossroads and Pittman, Comic Book Store in Glassboro, Farpoint and Maze Landing, Panther Comics in Blackwood. That sounds familiar, Panther Comics. Frankenstein's at Nerd Mall in Woodbury. All right, cool. If I'm ever down in that area, I've definitely got to check those places out. If you're ever up in North Jersey, Zap Comics, Gotham Underground are two I would definitely stop at. There's some great comic book stores in my area. So, all right, so we're going to go to the next part of this thing. Of course, you all heard the stories about the drama that went on about some of the influencers pushing this book and then selling this thing on whatnot. I just want to throw my comments out there because I'm a little channel. Nobody gives a crap what the hell I say. So, but I don't think it's a huge deal. I'll be right honest with you. Like in life, more popular you are, the more things you get that are available to you. That's just the way life is sometimes. Like, is it fair? No. But hey, like you can't change it. I don't think anybody could change it. I don't think like going nuts on these people and saying, hey, you shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't get it. Certain people have certain things they're going to get. I get it. But listen, it is what it is. Don't fret over it. You don't have to lose sleep over it. If it's a book that you really want and it sucks. I don't know what to tell you, but at the end of the day, like that's just how it is. So I'm not going to kill someone for trying to make a buck. I think that's insane. That's their livelihood, right? That's what they use to make money. Regardless, what we do as a community, as collectors, is up to our own, what we want to do. No one should tell us to do what we want. We shouldn't be telling anyone else to do what they want. If that's something you don't like, then screw it. Don't follow that person. Don't buy from that person. But all the stuff I see people going back and forth at each other, like, I think that's nuts. Like, this is supposed to be fun, right? I come on YouTube because I find it fun. I find like how many people I've met on here that I've become like really great friends with on to the community. I love that. Like I went to King Kong this year. I saw Erod. We had a quick chat. I saw a couple other dudes that I normally don't see out. Just say hello. Hey, what's going on? To me, that's part of it. Like that's part of our start in this YouTube thing. One, we get to talk about comic books. We get to speculate a little bit and find out what's new, what's hot. And I don't do that on the new books, but like some of the silver and bronze, I love picking up books. Hey, this could happen. Book could jump. And most of those are major keys. So when I talk about stuff, they're all major keys. And I don't really talk about books that I don't think have room to grow. I talk about the stuff that, hey, these are tried and true books. This is stuff that we should be going after. And I scream it from the rafters. So I don't care about other people. Like if they have a platform to be able to influence, great for them. They've earned that spot. People follow them. They enjoy it. So whatever. I'm not taking anybody down. I don't get sucked into it. I do my own thing, and that's how it should be. So, and then with that, I'm leaving it at that. All right. Your channel is dope no matter the size. Keep it real, money. Thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate that, man. I can't wait to see you go and start your thing. And hopefully you jump on my channel, I jump on yours, and we can make it like a weekly or a monthly thing and just go from there. Like to me, that's the best part of this is just kind of meeting people, right? I've done live streams in the past where I've had 2 people on, I've had 3 people on, I've had 4 people on, plus me one-on-one, just shooting the shit, talk about stuff and stuff like that. I'll be the first to say it. I have been enjoying She-Hulk and Disney. Have you watched it? So that was one of my topics tonight. Since you mentioned it, we're going to talk about it. I have not watched the second episode yet, but I did watch the first, and I thought it was pretty good. I love, and to me, I'm a sucker for an origin story. I love origin stories, not only in comics, but in comic book film or movies or shows. To me, that is the best. The best comic book origin story I ever saw was Batman Begins. I love that movie. I thought the whole trilogy was great, but I love origin stories and how they become and what makes them become who they end up being. To me, that I find that fascinating. And I thought the She-Hulk one was pretty good. They changed it from the comics. I think the comics, I forgot exactly how she contracted it. I think she had to donate blood to Bruce, or Bruce had to donate blood to her, and then it just went from there. But now, I don't want to spoil anything, but if you guys haven't seen it, they still mix blood, but it's in a different way. But I thought it was great. I thought it was great how they set up the show. She's always been breaking the fourth wall. So I think the further you go along, the better it's going to get. Like all the Disney Plus shows, they all start out slow and then they kind of end up great. I thought the WandaVision show started real slow, and then at the end, it was like pretty good. I thought the Loki was awesome. To me, that's still the best show that I saw on Disney Plus. She-Hulk, like I said, I only seen the first episode, but it looks promising. It does. I thought the Hawkeye one was good. I also love the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That was like a really buddy film. I thought that was the best one so far. I thought they could have made that thing into a movie instead of making it a show, but either way, I thought that was great. The only one I really did not care for was I thought Ms. Marvel was okay too. It just is different. Somebody who's not used to that stuff, it is totally different. But I was okay with different. I don't really follow the character in comics, so I really knew nothing about it. So maybe that's why I thought it was okay. I'm forgetting the one that I really did not like, but regardless, it was one I was like, Moon Knight. I didn't care for Moon Knight. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I thought it was okay at best, but I would have said that's the only one that's thumbs down because I thought they missed an opportunity for that character. That character is a big character. They should have done it more justice. I know they're coming back with season 2, but they could have set that character up a little better. That's my opinion on that. But I think the She-Hulk show is going to be funny. It's going to be good. You're going to see stuff that you haven't seen before, and they already said that there's going to be a lot of cameos in it. So I'm looking forward to that. We already seen Daredevil. I'm super excited for that. Do you think the price is going to explode even more for Fantastic Four 5 in the next year? Yeah, I do. You guys know I own 2 copies of that one. That's to me, it's the biggest Marvel villain there's ever been, and I think when you get to see him on screen, when you get a glimpse of him, people are going to go nuts. Everybody forgets about that book when they're buying big keys. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you're picking up Spider-Man keys, and of course, you have all the heroes that have already been in the MCU. But now when we go to the villains, you've had Thanos for 10 plus years. After that, Ultron is not really, the book hasn't really shot up. Who else? Some of the minor villains, really, the books haven't gone nuts. Hercules went up a little bit, like not a big villain, but again, he's there. This is the biggest villain there is. Where do you expect this book to go? It's already gone up. I mean, you talk about 2 years ago, the book, like my copy, I have a 2.0, I bought for $2,200 2 years ago. The copy now is worth like freaking $7,000. I mean, you're talking about almost quadrupling. So yes, and I still think it's going to go higher. But that's not a book you just buy and you wait and you flip. You got to hold on to that book. And everybody who watches my channel knows that if you're buying anything right now, you're holding on to this thing because there's a gluttony of stuff out there that are people throwing out in the market. I see books everywhere on Instagram that are for sale, eBay, they're crazy, everything that's going on. Everybody's listing everything. And I've even thrown in some book ups for sale just to have them out there. But that doesn't mean you should be selling everything. You should be doing the opposite right now. Buying, but only for the long term. I'm not buying anything that I plan on selling within the next year. Believe she was shot and needed blood transfusion. Yeah, that the whole She-Hulk. Yeah, I think that was it too. She needed a transfusion. Miss Marvel's family was the best part of the show. I agree. When you come from like that kind of influence, that kind of background, like seeing how they live, how they react, I thought that was great. But again, I didn't follow the characters, so it wasn't like extraordinary to me. If they had like a Disney Plus show about Spider-Man, I'm sure I'd go crazy. I cannot wait for the Daredevil show because that's something that excites me. I know something about the character. I'm waiting for a Punisher series, man. The original one from Netflix, I absolutely loved. That I know I talk about this all the time, but that jail scene between him and the Punisher and the guards, to me, it's one of the best film sequences that I've ever seen. Loki and She-Hulk were great. Moon Knight was trash. I agree with you, dude. I thought it was terrible, Moon Knight. And they get after the first episode, I was really like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. And then it just kind of like it never recovered after that first episode. Dude, thank you so much, man. You can see I added that nice little neon light in the back. I was waiting for that thing for like 4 months and it finally came. It's very cool. Got to be happy, man. If you're going to display your books, this is like my childhood dream down here. The only thing is this room is really freaking small. So it is what it is. I'm lucky just to have a room. My family takes up the rest of my house, but Miss Marvel, I love. My folks are immigrants from India, and that show was my childhood, minus me having superpowers. Hey, it's not too late, bro. Hopefully you get them. Hopefully you get the superpowers. But you just touched on something which that is why we get into comics, right? Because we relate to them. We relate to the characters. I think that's why Spider-Man is so popular because I think he's relatable to most kids. So I think that's awesome, dude. That is, to me, I love hearing that stuff that you relate to a character, and the TV show brought that out. Hopefully, get into reading the comics if you don't read Miss Marvel, because that might, bring it even further, because there are still good comics out there. You just have to find them. Fortunately, the stuff that I like, the reading material just isn't there. But I've heard that the early Miss Marvel books are very good. How old is that scotch you're drinking? There you go. It's 12 years. So it's 12 years age, but it's nothing great, dude. It's like, What is it? Crown Royal. It's nothing great, but it relaxes me on a Friday night or anytime I have a rough night. So thanks for asking though. Matthew, where are you from? Are you local to me or are you from another part of the country? I'm not interested in ASM other than 5. So you're a huge Doctor Doom fan then. You know that's my second. Somebody asked me the other day, what is it? Why do I consider ASM 5 the second book to pick up after, FF5? It's because it's an Amazing Spider-Man book. Because FF6, I don't ever hear anybody talk about that book. I always hear ASM 5 and I hear FF Annual 1. And I'm not really a huge fan of FF Annual 1 or annuals in general. I think that ASM 5 is a huge book because it's the first Spider-Man and Doctor Doom crossover added to that. So I think that's a better buy. You guys know I'm not a crazy second appearance guy, especially when you have to spend a lot of money on it. So to me, I still think that's booked relatively affordable. It was just on the Hot 10 for, I think, a 3.0 was 1,200. If you can get a lower grade, I have a nice, a lower grade copy that I paid $500 for, a couple of years ago. If we get anything for under 1,000 on a 2.5, I think I would jump at that, like 800, $700. I think that's a good buy. I get no money from this channel, bro. I literally do it for fun. I think you have to get like big, followers and views to get money. So I barely make anything on here, like literally like under $100 a month. So I am in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm a big Silver Age collector growing up in the 70s. Which comic do you think, if any, will reach AF-15 status? That's a tough question. And I love these questions because that's what we're here for, is questions about comics. I always love giving my opinion. That's a tough question. 70s, there's 4 or 5 books from the 70s, the Bronze Age, where I think you have to own all of them. And I still think most of them are relatively cheap. Obviously, the first one is Hulk 181. That's the one that's the most expensive. But to me, when I go looking at the book, if you go on eBay, there's probably 700 for sale. That's how many there are. It's crazy how many copies are out there. I get Wolverine is so popular, but to me, it's so freaking. I feel like it's almost overpriced. I know he's so popular, and I own 2 copies, but I feel like I should be dumping one right now because I feel like at some point it's going to crash. The other 4 books are Marvel Spotlight 5, and it's funny because I had this on my thing to talk about tonight. Marvel Spotlight 5, First Appearance Ghost Rider, you still can get for cheap, 1,500 or less for on a 4.0 or 5.0. Amazing Spider-Man number 129, First Appearance of the Punisher, and Giant Size X-Men 1. Those are the 3 outside of Hulk 181 that I'm always a buyer of right now. If they will get to AF-15 status, I don't think none of them will get to AF-15 status. I don't know if there's a Bronze Age book that will do that because there's a higher print run. There's more out there. So I don't think you're ever going to get that. But I do think those are the 4 books that I continually will go up because they are popular characters. Those are the 4 most popular books from the Bronze Age, from Marvel anyway. DC Bronze Age stuff it wasn't the greatest. There's a couple out there I would say, yeah, definitely, but not much. House of Secrets is one of them, 92. The book is awesome, but it doesn't go up, man. It doesn't go up as fast as some of these Marvel books. DD season 1 of Flex is everything you want in a show. Dude, it was awesome. There's the end of the series when he comes in, he gets in the suit. Like you just want that as a collector and as a comic book fan. Like that show was great. And the second season I like too because they brought in the Punisher. I don't remember season 2 or season 3. I was floored when he showed up. I was like, oh, one of my favorite characters. So like when they showed up, only thing better was if they added Spider-Man to that mix. If they had that Spider-Man, Kingpin, Punisher, Daredevil, I probably would have that would have been it for me. I would have been set as a comic book watching that, as a collector. I would have been like, you can't do better than that. Johnny Walker Blue. There you go, man. Isn't FF6 a monster too? First villain team up with a Submariner comic? Yes, it is. To me, it's just like team ups are tough. Like it's a big book, but I don't really collect team ups for some reason. If I'm going to spend that much money, and maybe we could look up the price of that book. If you're going to spend that much money, you might as well get a different, bigger key, a first appearance key. That's just the way I look at it. What's a better investment? If you're going to spend a lot of money on a team up or a second appearance, I think you're better off buying a first appearance. That's just how I look at it. It's how I collect. I don't think you can go wrong buying a first. I think sometimes you can overpay for second appearances in team ups. South Carolina, but grew up in New England. All right, Mass. Very good, dude. I got a bunch of friends over there in New England. What's up? Immortal Biggie Shack. What is going on, brother? Green Lantern 76 is another one. I think that's the one that started the Bronze Age. It's a big key, especially for DC. But again, I mentioned that book in the books that I'd still buy out of DC right now. I think it was like one of the top 10. I did a top 10 DC books I was going to buy. I think that was a list. That was a good one. What's your favorite Marvel story arc? Mine is Daredevil. That's a tough one as well. I've always loved Kraven's Last Hunt. I know it's on the newer series. It's like a Copper Modern Age book, but I love that storyline. But I was a huge Spider-Man fan, so that's the stuff that I grew up reading. So keep in mind, like, yes, it took me a while to go back and pick up Silver Age books because they were more expensive when I was that young. But Kraven's Last Hunt, all that stuff, like I loved early, like that age of Spider-Man. I grew up reading. I read a lot of horror stuff also when I was a kid. Not obviously not Marvel stuff, but DC horror stuff like that. I loved. What is it about Hulk 181? Is it Jackman's performance? Is it an animated series portrayal? It just seems to be so expensive for how. I agree with you. It's really, I just think the character is beloved. And I think once Disney bought Fox, that book exploded. Exploded. I remember I had a 4.0 before they made that announcement, and it wasn't selling on eBay. It wasn't moving. And all of a sudden, they made an announcement and it sold just like that. It was like people realized, wait a minute, they got the X-Men. It's the biggest character there is, probably next to Spider-Man. We got to do this. Like, I got to buy this book. And now all of a sudden, it's just going up, going up. Now it's starting to come back in again. So, and there's so many freaking copies out there. So to me, it's just like, yeah, you have to own the book because it's a major character, but how much is it going to go up? I don't know. I got to be honest. I do not know. It makes me scared to go out and buy one right now. I've never graded any, bought some, but never have wanted to grade my books. I don't blame you, man. A lot of people think about how much it costs to grade books now. I think the CGC price is like minimum $80 right now to get a book graded. Am I right? Especially like an older book. Maybe some of the modern stuff is cheaper, but you're gonna spend $100 just to freaking grade a book with shipping. You could go out and buy a nice 100. So if you're gonna grade 10 books, I could go out and spend $1,000 on a book almost and get a nice key. I mean, think about all the books you can get for $1,000 right now. You could probably get a really low grade ASM 129, but I think a 450 was like $1,500. So if I'm going to spend $1,000 grading books on 10 books, I could just save 500 more and get a 50 ASM 129. Same for Marvel Spotlight 5. So think about that. Granted, we all still do it, but I don't know how people send in all these freaking books every month. They're sending 25 books at a time. The cost of that's got to be insane. You think Hulk 9.0 would crack 1 million if sold today, being the 9.8 is right at 100,000? No, it's probably like 5 times the amount, but I don't know. Why would you? I get it. 9.9 is probably rare, but like all it takes is one other 9.9 to show up, and then that's it. Like that book's going to drop in value. Granted, now there's 2, but I still wouldn't. To me, I don't go after 9.8 on older books. Like to me, that's just not my thing. I want to just own the book. I want to own the book in a well-presenting grade. That's the way I look at it. I'm not a freaking millionaire. I can't go out and spend that kind of money on a book. But I just want to own a book. I want to own a piece of history. That's the way I look at it. I want to own great artwork. I want to own a character that means something to me. Granted, if I can make a buck on it, I'm going to try to do it. And that goes back to the whole influencer thing. Like, if that's their livelihood and they want to do that and they want to make money, that's their prerogative. They're allowed to do it. They didn't do anything illegal. We can argue if it's fair or not. But to me, I don't think everything has to be a 9.8. I don't think everything has to be high grade. Yeah, I mean, you may better, if you're an investment person and you have the money to kind of throw around on that, yeah, go out and do it because you're going to get your money, more money in the end. But you got to be patient. If you're not a patient person, it's not going to happen. To me, these are not like, I don't look at them as investments. Most of them, most of them I look at because I've always wanted to have some of these books when I was a kid. And that's how I collect. Brouhaha, what's going on, man? I love your avatar. I love it. My collection is 90% raw, just raw. I agree with you. Like, I'm probably 50-50. 50-50. And these are all the slabs I have behind me right here. That's it. I don't have anybody anywhere else. What's up, Bryson? How you doing? Would you buy? I think FF5 is more expensive and it's with good reason, but DD1 is so undervalued. If you have the money, I mean, you don't have to go crazy and spend 7,000 on FF5. DD1 is cheap enough where you can buy it. 2.0 is like $3,000 right now, whereas if you get a 2.0 FF5, it's 7,000. So if I had a choice of money wasn't the option, I'd go with the FF5. But if money's an option, get the DD1. It's undervalued. That's just like I'd rather always have undervalued, and it's a major character. CCS, he says FF5. You're just talking about the book? Yes. Money-wise, I think DD1 might be a better buy because it's undervalued. Cost me 330 New Zealand dollars to clean, press, and grade my Ultimate Fallout 4 via CCS CGC. You're eager to pick your books to grade, then it's so expensive to do so. Absolutely. 330 bucks. So let's let New Zealand dollars. I don't know how that equates to US dollars. So if you know, please tell me. This is a great question, too. Thoughts on Signature Series books versus Blue Labels? I think Stanley Romita signed copies of silver bronze books will appreciate more over long term, or is there smaller market buyers? So this is a great question because I own an ASM 50 signed by Stanley and John Romita, and I paid up for that book. So if that doesn't answer your question, I love that book. That book is amazing, especially because you guys always know I talk about the book. It's a triple threat. And then I have it signed by Stanley and my favorite artist of all time. That's what it was more about, not about money, but I do think that they will appreciate. I think it matters what the book is. Don't get me wrong. If you have like Stanley Romita on a book that, it's not really doesn't mean anything, then it's probably not going to appreciate, much. But if you have that signature on a book that means something, dude, I don't think there's a better way of collecting, in my opinion. You have a book that's meaningful. That's why I talk about first appearances over second appearances over team ups. And you have that amazing book that it means something, and then you have it signed by the story writer and the artist. I don't think it gets better than that. I have yellow labels and I have blue labels in my collection. I collect both. I do like yellow labels. I think that they look better with certain books. With some, I don't. Like ASM 129, it's a yellow cover. I don't like it with the yellow Signature Series label. It doesn't look right to me because the yellows are different and they kind of clash. But I think it's a matter of preference. I think they're both fine. I think the signature matters, though, so keep that in mind. And the book that you haven't signed matters. I wouldn't have him sign anything. What's going on, Brandon? How you doing, bud? I'm 75% raw, but percent. 25%, I'm assuming that's graded. Listen, everybody, it's whatever they want, man. I think raw is, if you ever had a chance to go to a comic shop, if you go to a comic shop and you look through their stuff, don't you get more excited about looking through raw books than you do about looking at the slabs on the wall? Or maybe they have like a shorter long box for looking through slabs. I don't get as excited to look through the slabs. I don't know why. It's just a personal preference. I agree, man. It's the whole reason why we get into this thing is because, you have a chance to own a piece of history. You have a chance to own a piece of art. It molds you, right? All the stuff that we buy, it should mold you. Now that she does the private signings, I've been enamored with getting my stuff signed. Yeah, it depends. Like I said, if the artist or whoever you're having sign your book is important to you, then I totally understand it. I won't just go out and buy a signed book just to buy it. The signature has to mean something to you. Like I have like 4 or 5 Stanley signed books. I have a couple of John Romita signed books, and that is it. I have a Roy Thomas signed Hulk 181. That's it. Everything else is and I have a Todd McFarlane signed ASM 300. I love Todd. He was one of the guys that got me back into comics in the 90s. So those are the only signatures I have. And I wouldn't probably go out and get another one besides that. Like it was Stan, it was John Romita, and it was Todd. Those are my influences growing up. So Los, what's going on, man? I haven't spoken to you in a while, bud. I love my Avengers 4 signed by Stan Lee. Getting to meet him and sign a book he worked on meant the most to me. I agree. And that's what I actually also have an Avengers 4 signed by Stan Lee as well. Look, that's the first Silver Age appearance of Captain America, man. You have it signed by the greatest, comic book, historian ever. I'll call him, right. He was a story writer, but what he did for comics was amazing. I mean, I would love to have a Jack Kirby signature. Don't get me wrong. Jack Kirby was one, and Steve Ditko as well. I would love to have them have stuff signed, but it's impossible. Like you'll never go out and have Jack sign something. He's no longer with us. Same with Steve Ditko. He's also no longer with us. So he'd had to have signed something and then have it witnessed by CGC. I do have a Marv Wolfman blue label signature that wasn't witnessed by CGC, which is fine by me. I don't care. I got that really early on in collecting. So I picked that up and I thought I really got like a ridiculous deal on it. So you could tell it's real though. So that's the only thing that matters to me. All right. So we talked about She-Hulk. So I also wanted to bring this up to you guys. You ready? I am going to New York Comic Con. I told you guys that. So this is the thing I want to ask you guys. All right. What do you want to see? Like my plan, I'm going to Friday, only the Friday. What do you plan on? What do you guys want to see from content? You want to see, like, obviously we're going to see some books, right? That's the whole thing. We're going there. We're going to go books. Do you guys want to see cosplay? Do you guys want to see statues? You guys want to see some of the, like panels, stuff like that? I want to make sure I'm bringing you guys content that you guys want to see. So I'm going with my youngest. I'm taking him. He's never been to a Comic-Con before. So he's been to a convention, but not a big show. So I want to make sure that you guys have what you want. Like, my plan was to go and maybe get some interviews with some of the dealers out there. I know Vince from Metropolis Comics a little bit. So I'm possibly talking to him. He's a big dealer out there. Runs Comic Connect as well. That's one of them. And get you some of the other dealers. I can get you probably, some statues. Maybe if they announce some new toys there, I might do for anybody who collects toys. Anybody who doesn't know, I collect Masters Universe stuff. That's really the only thing toy-wise I collect. Oh, I do. I know Spider-Man retro stuff I do as well. But I don't know if you guys, what do you guys want to see? If it's just books, I'll just do books. But my whole plan was to kind of go in and ask everybody out there, like, what do you think of the market? What do you see that's selling the most, and what things would you recommend? And that was kind of be like this thing tonight, having a dealer here saying, what are you seeing that's selling right now? What do you think your opinion on what people should be buying? And then we have like another collector who kind of gives their opinion, and myself who gives an opinion, who has like a little bit of a platform to kind of share. So I still would like to do that in the future. I just kind of need to get a dealer. I had some feelers out there, but no one could kind of get on at the time that I can get on. So you guys let me know if what you're interested in. I'm just taking everybody's thing. And if you're going to be in New York Comic Con, please let me know, because I would like to meet up with everybody that, out there in the community that I have not met, that I've come on my channel, who have talked to me through messages. It's great to put faces behind the names. Book, statues, and nice cosplay would be great. I agree with you. Like, I think that's what was my plan. Book, statues, maybe some toys, cosplay, and some interviews, right? Definitely want to get some guys out there who are kind of bigwigs in the community, who are sellers, to kind of give their thoughts. I do think it's important. See how they're doing as well. Not just the bigger dealers, but some of the smaller ones, because they're affected differently. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how much picking up I'm going to do, because at these shows, usually, notoriously, they're ridiculously expensive, right? And I got to be honest, it's really finding it hard to find books right now, because it is like, it was pulling teeth on the two books that I picked up from the local show that I went to 2 months ago, or 2 weeks ago. They did not want to haggle that much. And I was like, you know what? I'm not paying for this. Like, this is what I have in mind, and that's it. You either take it or leave it. And I said to you guys on that video, I said, do not spend a lot of money on stuff right now. If you could get stuff for a deal, definitely pick it up, add it, but stay at your price. They have to sell books, right? They have to sell the books. That's their business. That's what they do for a living. So they can't come down a little bit for you guys. Hold off. Guess what? They'll come back later on and say, you know what? I'll do it at that price. As long as you're not disrespectful, that I will say that. Don't be dropping the book. Oh, give me $1,000 off. That's ridiculous. But anywhere from, if it's a big book, a 500 to 1,000. If it's smaller books, anywhere from a couple of $100 or more, I would say. They got to move books. That's what I'm going to tell you guys. Action figures equals great collection. Okay, there you go. CGC or criminal organization, a comic syndicate. I don't know about criminal, but I get why you say that, right? They're charging for the service, but if you want your books encapsulated, unless you're willing to do it yourself, that's the only one in the game besides CBCS, PGX, and there's EGS now as well that I know of. And I've never used EGS. I used PGX way back when, and I wasn't impressed with their cases to me. But other than that, if that's your thing, that's great. I don't have I just use CGC because I'm comfortable, and that's the way I look at it. Brand new collector, and I just got to say I love your show. Also, I'm wondering if you're going to collect any of the Beyond Amazing Spider-Man comings out. I don't really do the new stuff. I will say this. I saw a couple people get some of those, homage variants from that show where the whole, acetate gate went out. I did love some of that artwork. So again, I'm not paying up for it though. If I can get a cheap book that I think the artwork is amazing, that's what I'm going to do. I don't plan on reading it. But like I said, if I see amazing artwork and it's affordable to me and I think that's worth it, I'll pick it up. Other than that, I won't collect like Beyond Amazing Spider-Man and stuff like that, only because, it's just not my thing. However, I will say this. If it's a new series, a modern book that comes out, and people are telling me it's a Spider-Man book that's a great read, then we can kind of get into conversation. All right, I have to pick up this book and see if it's really as good as people say, and then I'll read it. It won't be for collecting purposes, but I will read it because I haven't read a good Amazing Spider-Man story or Spider-Man story in quite some time. I'd be curious on seeing what you think of pricing at the con. I just went to Emerald City CC, and for the most part, it was like, you guys are here to show off. I know. And to be honest with you, I last big con I went to was like before COVID, before whatever, and it was like I bought literally an AF-15, but it was through Metropolis Comics. It was years ago. It was, it was a big book, so it's different because when you go buy a big book, it's like, all right, this is the price of the book. You can actually see and look it up, see what it's worth. So if it was worth it, I was looking for one at the time, so I paid what it was worth. So that to me was worth it. But if you go buy like a smaller key, and it's way more than GPA, if it's way more than last Comic Link sale, stay away. Unless some people price their books high and then they'll give you like a deep discount, that's a different story. A lot of dealers do that and say, hey, this is the last sale on this book. Are you willing to sell it to me for that or under that? And they may say, yeah, no problem. I get that all the time. And that's 100% fine. And that's kind of like a tactic. They'll go, all right, my books are priced high, but I'm going to give them a better deal and they're going to feel like they're happy. That's a tactic that they'll use. And I think that's fine as long as at the end you're happy with what you pay for it. But my opinion, ready? I'm not paying last sale for anything right now. I have to be under the last sale. That's how I look at it. Now, if I really want a book, I still want to be under the last sale, but I may come closer to that last sale. If I don't really need the book, then I'll stay and hold my ground. But that's like a personal preference. That's just what I do. But I think it's a good thing, rule of thumb to stick to because it kind of keeps you in check as well. Are you planning on trying to get it in NYCC? Another great question. If you guys haven't watched my last video or a couple of videos ago, I give you a list of books I always go into anywhere looking for. They're always in the back of my mind. Those are books I always plan on looking at. So whenever I see them on someone's wall, I'll ask a price, see what they're willing to do on it. If it's the right price, I'll pull the trigger. If it's not one of those books, if I find like a really nice copy for cheap of something that I'd say, hey, I think this book is undervalued, like a Daredevil 1 is one that was on that list as well. But like I saw somebody at the last show, the book was like $1,600, but it was really low grade. But I'm like, you know what? How often can you get a Daredevil 1 for $1,600? And it presented well. I'm like, you know what? I thought about it for a second, but I have 2 copies already. I don't need a third. But somebody else should have bought that book because it was a decent price and it looked good. Thank you for that comment, J Rock, man. I've been waiting for this thing for like 4 to 5 months, and it finally came last week. Had a chance to hang it up, and I think it definitely adds something to the room. No. Are you serious, Biggie Shack? The WandaVision house is the same house for Christmas Vacation. Somebody better confirm this, please, because I'm about to lose my mind because I did not know that. That is classic if that is true. I got to look that up after this. EGS labels do look pretty cool, but you gotta be, careful with some of that stuff. I think they look cool. And if it's your collection and you want to hang it and look at your wall, I think it's awesome. Do it. If you ever have to resell the books, though, it may be a little bit of an issue because some people won't pay as much for them. I don't care either way. Like if you're happy, I'm happy. That's the way I look at it. I'm never going to try to influence anybody on here. Some of them do really look great. I like the hot pink covers and stuff like that. For the modern books, I think they look better. Some of the older books, I really don't think they look that great. So the current Miles books is great. I totally get it. A lot of people love Miles. I'm not a huge reader of Miles. To me, I prefer Peter Parker. It's just where I grew up. Doesn't mean I don't like Miles Morales. I do think Ultimate Fallout 4 is a buy, even though that book is like it's lost like 40% of its value. I may take your run for it, but this is like, where do I jump in at this point? Aren't we at issue like 50 something now? That's my thing. Where do I jump in and say, all right, where do I start? So somebody let me know the answer to that as well, because that's an important question. If somebody's going to come out and start reading something, where do you start? If there are like 50 issues in already, do you have to go get one through 40 something? Because that's a little bit time consuming. FF Annual 2. Which one is FF Annual 2? Trying to think now. FF Annual 2. I love the days of raw books, only no graded books. I think whenever there's money involved, it's going to be, it is what it is. You know what I mean? People are always going to try to make a buck in this industry. It's like any other thing out there. All right, so FF Annual 2 is the what he was talking about. That's the other Dr. Doom book. So that I may have misspoke on that. So very good. Thank you for correcting me, Biggie Shack. I love the days of Robux and only no graded books. Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I do think graded books look nice to a certain extent. I love the labels, the personal label, Marvel labels. I think they're phenomenal. I think it really adds to the character and the presentation of the book, especially if you display them. If you own them, it does something. I'm not going to knock that because I think CGC did a great job of doing that. I wish they did that for DC books as well, because think about how people would go out and start buying more DC books if they were able to send them into CGC and get DC personalized labels, right? It would drive the price up of DC books. And we don't want prices to go up if we want to buy books, but if we own the books, yeah, then we do. So they really need to get on that. And it might be like a thing with Marvel saying, all right, you can only do ours, but somebody should do it. What's your end game with comics? You're selling everything at one point, handing down to kids, etc. Great question. I think it's probably going to be a little bit of both. Like my youngest is a huge Spider-Man fan, just like me. He loves Spider-Man. So I probably, if, I'll put something in there. He's got to kind of get a college degree, have a great job, and I'll pass it down when I go. Everything else, we'll see. If I'm in a good point in my life where I don't need the money, then I'll pass everything down. I will sell things here and there because as things go up, I think that's part of what you do. You can always add them back as they come back down, right? Think about that. It doesn't always have to be the same book. You always re-add it. These books are not going anywhere, and they're usually readily available. I'm trying to spend a buck to read a book, not make a buck. I'm not a spec head, but that's just me, though. Listen, I get it. Reading is part of the hobby, right? But no one's buying in like an ASM 129 to read it. You'd buy a reprint. That's what you would do, and I agree with that. That's part of this hobby is reading books. I wish there was stuff out there that I can go out and read, but guess what? If I read something, I got like the ASM bound volume. That's what I read. It's like sitting right next to me. Like if I'm gonna read a comic, that's what I read because I just like stories, and it brings me back to when I used to read that stuff when I was younger. If somebody showed me a book that have a character I was interested in, it was a modern book and it was great, I'll read it. But I have the characters I enjoy. I haven't read one. There's something about hunting for your key role and then grading it yourself. Books never look better than in a slab, in my opinion. It's personal preference, but I get what you mean. Like hunting for a role book and then having it graded, it gives you excitement. There's hope. There's like you're waiting for that grade to come back. You're hoping it's what it is, and it's like, it's in my head. It's like, what are we gonna do? Is that book gonna come back? Are you gonna get resto or you're not gonna get resto? Is it complete? Blah blah blah. There is like excitement to that, but it's all personal preference as far as grading goes. I already told my gift if I die, which box has most valuable comics, and to do her homework before she sells them. But that's the key. Is she gonna listen? You told her. I tell my wife the same thing. Is she gonna listen? Or is she gonna say, get rid of this crap and just sell it for whatever? Somebody's gonna make her like a $50,000 offer for all this stuff, and she's gonna take it, and that's gonna be it. So I wouldn't leave it to her, to my wife. I would leave it to the kids, and I know the younger one will look up the prices, and he'll probably never sell anything unless he had to. But that's what I would do. All right, so again, another topic I was going to bring up until we get the chat going again is books everyone out there is looking for. So anybody in the chat right now, are there books out there that you're hunting for? Are you looking for a certain book? Are there a book that like you can't find because you keep on getting disappointed? The book is so expensive or out of your price range, or everywhere you go to get the book, it's just they're asking too much money for it. That's a topic I really want to hear about because in this market, like it's just said to you guys, I'm not overpaying for anything. I only want a deal. I had somebody offer me a Marvel Spotlight 5 the other day, and I'm like, they asked it was under GPA by like $50. I'm like, dude, I'm not buying anything unless I can get a really good deal because there's just so much stuff for sale right now. It's not worth it. Somebody will always keep lowering the price. The more stuff that comes out for sale of that book, the lower the price is going to go. It seems like ever-growing voice of the spec crowd is losing respect for news stories if they don't generate more spec. Not that it's wrong, just how I see it all. Listen, I agree with you. The more people talk about spec of books that aren't where they should be, like it's one thing if you're specking on a Bronze Age first appearance. It's one thing if you're specking on a Silver Age first appearance, bigger books. It's another thing to spec on minor first appearances and modern books. That's the way I look at it. The problem is I think that a lot of people don't think they can afford some of the bigger stuff, but I think that if they realize how much money they were spending on some of this new stuff, they could see that, hey, instead of me buying that, if I pocket that money, I can go out and get a bigger book. That's just my opinion. Of course, that doesn't mean it's the case, but that's just how my mind works. Spec, it's you got to be careful specking on the wrong thing with new stuff. That's the only thing. New books are meant to be read. You are 100% right, Slapton. Meant to be read. And I will say this, some of the artwork nowadays is absolutely phenomenal. So if you like collecting classic covers and amazing artwork, you get it for cover price or maybe a little above. You spend $10 for a book. I'm all for that, man. Even $20, I'm all for that. You love that artwork and you want to keep it. I've done that as well. Like some of the stuff is amazing right now. I got a Hulk 2 and an FF6 is a book I'm going to grab up a lot. Has a potential. Both, again, second appearances. Everybody knows how I feel about them. Great books to own. I just don't want to overpay for them. Some of the, especially the ones you're mentioning, they're expensive books, man. The Hulk 2 is, depending on the grade, they're a lot of money. FF6, a lot of money. So if we combine those, would you rather have 2 second appearances or one, take that money and buy one first appearance? I granted Hulk 1, it's a different story, and FF5 is a different story as well. So I get it. Totally get it. As it pertains to the big two, I totally get it. Dude, I'm with you, man. ASM 1 to 16 on my want list, low to mid grade. ASM 1, I've been hunting for another copy forever. It's crazy right now because even at low grade, I just looked up a 0.5 because I have a 0.5 and I'm missing the back cover on my book. It's like it's like 4,500 for a 0.5. So if you get a 1.0 complete, you're looking at probably $8,000 or $9,000, which is a lot of money for a 1.0 ASM 1. So that's my big thing. Like you got to find one that's affordable. And I think those days are gone. 16, absolutely. Great Daredevil, Spider-Man crossover. Great book. But again, it's a book that's got expensive. You can get it for under $1,000. It's probably worth it. But especially that white cover too. That white cover is hard to find a nice looking copy out there. If you could find one, I think it's a great buy. We self-slab with ultra one-touch magnet holders. They are pretty sturdy. What's the name of that? I think Reggie posts some stuff. I don't know if it's the same one that you're using, but he posts I want a Gator Guard or whatever it's called. I thought those things are pretty cool. If you want to slab yourself, there's just no grading thing at the top. But one shot. I saw you just message me on Instagram. Send me what you're talking about so I could take a look at it. I want to see what they are because that's definitely something maybe we could show on the channel for people who are out there interested. Let me know. I'm contemplating between a good mid-grade ASM 14 and a low-grade AFF 5, but then you brought up DD1, so now I'm also thinking about DD1. Well, I will say this. When you say low-grade FF 5, how low-grade and what presentation? ASM 14 Green Goblin is a great book, but I don't necessarily think you need to go out and get a mid-grade. I have a 3.0. I think I paid like $1,300 a couple years back. But I think now if you can get like a 2.5, 3.0, it's maybe just a tad more than that. It hasn't really gone up too much. I don't think you need to go mid-grade. The low-grade FF is going to be costlier, right? That's a lot of money. But I would say the better buy is FF5. But DD1, I just think it's so undervalued. Like I'd be scooping that book up right now, especially if the show is really good. You never know where that book can go. I'm just surprised it went up a lot and then now it's come back down again. So it's definitely a good buy in my opinion. I can't see that book not going up for the long term. I'm moving into the big blue chips. They're out there. The challenge is finding the price I can do with someone open to payment plans. My first FF49 be paid off 10-1 next. Congratulations, back in the game. So just so you know, I had a Hulk 1 that I just sold using a payment plan for one of the people who bought it. If you're a reputable, most reputable dealers will do a payment plan depending on how long you need. For me, as long as the person is making like a payment like every so often, I'm fine with holding the book. I have no issues. If this book you're interested in, I have it, message me. But definitely most reputable dealers will do that for you. Some, you got to be careful because some are non-refundable. To me, I'm not like that. I'm not going to steal someone's money. I think that's nuts. But, as long as you're always making money towards the book, I don't care. Like, it could take a year for all I care. I mean, I would like not to take the year, but, if you pay me like $100 a week and you want to take that long, that's up to you. But it's just sitting in my collection anyway. Just picked up MX3, my latest. You think MCU with Jackman done will focus on her going forward, or you think they will grant? No, they're definitely revamping Wolverine. I don't think you're going to see NYX for a long time. Long time. Unless they do like a cartoon or Disney Plus show. I don't think you're getting her for a long time. They're gonna take their time with Wolverine. And from what I heard, they can't even recast these characters to 2025. So You have a long time to wait on NYX, unless it's like a cartoon. Other than that, I don't think. I think Wolverine is going to be a while in the in Marvel. Like that's their next set of characters. They don't have Spider-Man. Most of the OG Avengers are gone. That's it. It's Fantastic Four and X-Men is the future right now. I am in Canada, so getting books is expensive shipping and duty wise. I want to hunt for Silver Age books, but I need the price to come down more after this comic boom. I get it. Shipping is expensive. I just sent a T-shirt to my boy Errol, who was in visiting his mom in Canada, and it cost me like $35 to ship him a T-shirt, which is crazy. But I have these for sale at mightycollects.com. They're real cheap, by the way, and I also have hats too. So I'm plugging my own shit here. But they're really cool and they're a great fit, comfortable. You can see the hat, beautiful hat. But yes, duty is crazy right now, and shipping is really expensive. But the key is to find when I book from, buy books from overseas, I try to find someone who has like a lot of books that I want. This way, it's kind of worth it. So they're sending me like 4 or 5 books instead of just buying one book, and then it kind of makes me feel a little bit better about spending the money on shipping. Awesome, thank you so much, One Shot. I appreciate that, buddy. Sinfully Good Comics, how you doing, bud? Thanks for joining us tonight. Sold Hulk 1, 9.0 restored at Heritage, tripled my coin. Congratulations. That is a book, even restored 9.0. That's got to be insanely amount of money. I will say, when did you buy it? How long have you held on to that book? Did you buy it like 10 years ago, or did you buy it recently and then flipped it? Hulk 1 is the only main book that makes me want to make a push. Dude, I agree with you, Biggie Shack. Again, another book that's on my list for always books that I'm hunting. Go watch that video if you guys haven't, because it seems like the same type of books that everybody's talking about is always the ones that's on that list of books that whenever I see them, like those are the books that I always come back to, that if I ever go to show, I want to know the price because I may have to buy it. Hulk 1's on that list, even though 9 times out of 10 I can't afford it, but it's something if I see it on a wall, I ask, how much is it? I think it's worth it because it's also scarce. So keep that in mind. It's very scarce. I think the last census count was just over 2,000. So, I mean, if you're one of 2,000 people that own that book, man, that's very few copies. Graded anyway. There's probably some raw books out there still. Then on to FF48, Hulk 181, DD1. Those are all great books. I think you got right on. 48 right now has come down so much in price. It's come down 50%, if not more. I don't know why all of a sudden that book got just tailed off so much. Go out and buy them. I'm looking for copies right now on that. I have one. I want to add more copies to it because I think that once he shows up, that's a fan favorite character. That's a book I'm on to right now. 181, we've talked about. I'm really scared about that book. DD1, yes. ASM 129, yes. Another book, there's a lot of copies out, but I think there's a lot of Punisher fans. And the fact that it's an ASM book helps that book as well. Also, yellow cover. Wow. I sold my extra ASM 2.5 for 2,800 a few months ago back and bought an MS 40. MS MS5 4.0 though is only like a $1,500-$1,600 book now. So did you pocket the rest? Unless you bought it and you're losing on it now, but that's a great price for ASM 14 2.5. That is amazing price that you got for that. Congrats. Would love a copy of FF52, but more focused on ways to find the funds than to find the books themselves. I get you. It's hard, man. Just keep putting, even if you take $10, if you can afford $10 a week, take it out, put it in another account. All right, this is my comic stuff for the week. At the end of the month, you got $40. So depending on the grade you're looking for, I mean, you can get a FF5 52 for like low grade 2.5. I'm spitballing here, probably about $500. If you want a higher grade, it's going to be more money, obviously. But so you're talking about at the end of the year, you might have one. That's the way I look at it. Just keep, take a little bit out and save. That's the way I do it. Unless you're going to sell books to fund another book, then that's different. Or trades is another option you have as well. I find a ton of people out there. I get messages all the time. You open to trades? No. Most of the time, I'm not. Because most of the time, someone wants a big grail that I have, and they're willing to trade me like, books that I don't want, or books that's going to take me forever to sell. I don't do stuff like that. Like I'd rather have a big key than have books that I don't want to, that they're going to be hard to sell. It's a great book. You guys know, if you watch my stuff, like I said, that's the only Black Panther book I want, FF52. It's a great book. 8 years. Okay, so you held on to that book a long time. So listen, you deserve that triple. That's how, but that's how you do it, guys, right? He held on to the book for 8 years and sold it at the right time. When things went nuts because of the MCU, it's just he did the right thing. That's how you do it. You got to buy at the lulls, and right now I think we're in a lull. And then you got to sell once you start going again. And my guess is once we start going again is FF and X-Men. That's when we start going again. It's going to take a while. So don't think that we're going to, they're going to buy stuff and sell stuff now. You got to buy and hold till we get all that stuff that's coming. My favorite 3 books are Avengers 1, ASM 14, and Hulk 2. Avengers 1, again, another undervalued key out there. Still, it's gone up a little bit, but I don't understand why that book doesn't go up in value. It's just like, it's the first big team there was outside of like Justice League, stuff like that. Like, that is it. And it's so cheap. ASM 14 is a personal favorite of mine as well. I love the Green Goblin. Anything ASM, big keys, I just love it. And Hulk 2 as well, second Hulk. Why do you think a book like FF52 was still so undervalued? The movie was huge. I'm glad to be able to get a couple of high-grade copies while it's low, but Black Panther is such an iconic character. So let me answer this by saying this. You ready? That book went up so much after that first Black Panther movie. It was up huge. And that book was like, you could have found it for like $100 at mid-grade before they even announced anything Black Panther. That book shot up like crazy. Then what happened? Chadwick Boseman passed away, unfortunately, and now the book's taking a back seat. It's coming down again. I can only assume because they think that that character is never going to be seen again. That's why it's dropping back down. It's not the hot book of the month anymore, even though it's a great and long-term hold, in my opinion. That's the only thing I could think of. It's just who grew up being a Black Panther fan. That's the next thing. I wasn't a Black Panther fan. I became a Black Panther fan because of the movies, but I think that's part of it as well. But you look at it, you look at like an AF-15, it's like, how many Spider-Man fans are out there? Yes, the book went up so much. It's coming back down now, but it's still worth so much freaking money. Again, they're both Silver Age books. It's just, I think it's popularity as well. If I start spending way too much, not pacing myself, thank you. That's a tricky slope. When I first got back to collecting, I was doing the same thing. I was picking up books left and right. Thank God when I started, it wasn't as expensive as it is today. The only advice I could tell you is this, what I said before. Know in going what you're looking for. I always have books in the back of my mind that I know I want to buy. Have a list saying this is what something is worth. This is what I should be paying for this book. This is what I want to pay. And if it's not that price, go on to the next one, right? Set a limit for yourself saying this is what I'm willing to pay in this grade and say walk away if it's not. Sometimes it's hard to do, especially if you want something, but I find setting limits and setting goals for yourself the easiest way to do things. I don't know. Terry, bro, the cover is great too. Oh, he's talking about FF52. Yeah, listen, man. I agree with you. It's just I think it's popularity and where Marvel is going with the character now is unfortunate. I think if Chadwick was still here and he was still around and still was playing the character, I think it would be higher. Not the Silver and Bronze Age keys. I don't read them. If I want to read them, I'll buy reprints. I don't really collect new books unless I find something that someone recommends to me. But I have a local shop in my area. I go looking for back issues. I don't go looking for new books. On Silver Age X-Men books, X-Men 1 may be out of reach. I understand. I do think Silver Age X-Men is still undervalued, so keep that in mind. Outside of 1, I mean, the rest of them are pretty affordable in my opinion. They shot up for a little bit, but now have come back down again. So I think now's a great time to buy them. Just I would rank them in importance to you of buying and buy the biggest books first. That's what people told me in the past when I got back to it. It's easier to buy the bigger books first and then go back and buy the little books later. DD1, Showcase 22, ASM 50. All great books. ASM 50, you guys know, is a personal favorite. Showcase 22, if you watch that video, I said top Silver Age DC books. That was number 1. Showcase 22, number 1 I would buy right now. DD1, I can't even speak how much I said that book is undervalued. No pocket rest, sir. It's tough, man. You got to be careful. Don't overspend. If you can, depending on the size of the book you want, just hold off on everything else until you do it. Save like a little bit at a time. If you really want that book, it's worth it at the end. Local hookers would be informative. Thumbs up. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry, but I see FF40 is like Hulk 180. See, why? Let me ask you that, Matthew. Why do you say that? FF48 first appearance Silver Surfer. Why is that like Hulk 180? Because it's saying it's cameo, but that's Galactus, right? It's cameo of Galactus, but it's the first Silver Surfer. I think that's why people buy it. That's why I buy it. Sold ASM 129. Oh my God, for 9,000. Bought TMNT first 9.8 for 15,000. Lost money to make money. I agree. Sometimes you got to do that, right? I've done that as well. Sometimes you have to sell a book and take a loss on it to buy another book that you really want that you know is going to be worth more, or maybe you got a better deal on that book. That's great advice from Cadet 68. Don't always be infatuated with losing money, because if you lose $100 on a book and then you make $500 on the next book, it's worth it, right? Don't always get caught up on that. If he'd rather have a TMNT 9.8, which obviously he does, because I think at a 9.8, that's like, I don't even want, it's got to be close to freaking six figures or over six figures, right? Definitely worth it. I've sold all my selling books kind of at a stalemate in my collection, but I've done well. Wait, so Biggie, you don't have it? You have books still. I'm sold all my selling books. So you mean you sold everything you wanted to sell, right? If that's what you mean, I get it. It's tough when you sell everything and you don't have anything left to sell. It's kind of hard to add stuff back at that point because you've gotten rid of everything that you really wanted to. Crow 1, Albedo 2, any life for these books in the future? You know, it's funny because the Crow 1 and Albedo 2 was on like the hot 10 that I do maybe like 3 months ago. Albedo 2, you know what really killed that book? They had a Netflix show that everybody was talking about, and it came out and they never promoted the show. So it's out on Netflix and they never promoted it. Nobody watched it. Nobody did anything. I don't even know if it's still on there anymore, but everybody was really looking forward to that show. Again, you're talking about a book. It's got to be popular. So I don't know how popular Usagi Yojimbo is. There are people who are cult followers who love it. So I always think there'll be a market for it. It's just how much is that book going to go up? Because I don't think you have an avid following like you do some of these other big superheroes. So Crow 1, again, if it's a first print and you can find it, I think that's a book you need to own. A lot of money. I love that movie growing up. I say they should remake it. I know people yell at me all the time that they should never touch that movie again, but they have to. You have to get renewed interest in the books, right? And they should probably come out with some kind of Crow book, but that's the only thing that's going to push it, right? Because when did that movie come out? In the 90s, early 90s, late 80s? I think early 90s. After that, what is push the book? Nothing's pushing it. That's the issue. Nothing's pushing it. Phil, what's up, man? Glad to see you stop by tonight. Phil is one of the guys who always comments on a lot of my videos, and I really appreciate it for him because we always have some nice back and forth, when he makes a comment, which I really enjoy, by the way. So if you comment on my videos, I always make it a point to, like, heart, or comment back if you ask a question. So I try to be good on that. As for me, books that I always want to buy are, like I mentioned a few before, books that I always look for: ASM 129, Giant Size X-Men 1, Marvel Spotlight 5. The Silver Age books are getting harder, right? The Silver Age books are getting harder. The ASM keys, the big keys, 1 through 50 is a big part of it. But they're getting up there in price now too. But there's still deals to be had. I go to shows and there are a lot of people like aren't buying some of those stuff right now, which I don't get, because that's like the tried and true stuff. I get it. If you're not a Spider-Man fan, people aren't buying it, but I think there are. It's just, I think the economy probably plays a bit in it too right now. Inflation, people, struggling with money wise. Great stuff. Thanks. No problem, dude. Thank you for joining me tonight. Any other books you guys have any questions on? We've been at this thing for about an hour and 20 minutes. We'll see how long this thing can go. But any questions, I'm here for answers, guys. Even if you want me to look some up on GPA. Toronto, Canada Fan Expo is this weekend. Looking forward to it and appreciate the tips. That's great, man. I wish I could go to more cons, but my schedule has been so busy lately. I'm going to NYCC. Thank God I got tickets to that. I wasn't sure I was be able to go, but got to that. A lot of the cons in my area, they stopped a few of them, so I couldn't go. I wanted to go to Terrificon in Connecticut. Couldn't make it to that because I had something going on that weekend. There's a small show called King Con in October I'm going to try to go to, but it's a smaller show. But there's a lot of people from my area who go there. I went there last year. got a definitely great deal on a couple of books. So if you guys are in the, Jersey area, Connecticut area, New York area, that was a good show last year. And there's a lot of guys from the YouTube community. If you want to meet them, they'll be there. I know Gary's there. Erod was there last year. Chu, what's his name? He's on Instagram. He's a dealer there, but I've met him a couple of times. Chu Kingdom on Instagram. He's a dealer there. Ex-Illusionary Comics was there last time I was there. Do you know which characters are going to be featured in the Disney Halloween special? I hope Man-Thing makes an appearance. I do not know, but that's great spec thing. I said that Adventures into Fear is a great buy right now because nobody's talking about that book. Savage Tales #1, super scares book. It's a magazine style book. I think it's a great buy as well because nobody is freaking talking about that book. Nobody is talking about that book. When you have Ghost Rider, Man-Thing, Werewolf by Night's another book that I said, Marvel Spotlight 2 was on my book. One of the things that I always go to look for, it shows book that nobody talks about. Couple others that make up that, Hell's whatever, Hell's Angels or whatever I'm going to call them. Legion of Monsters, right? I would be all over those books right now because that is the true spec. Forget the modern stuff. Stuff like that is true spec, in my opinion. You want to know a book that I think is great spec, even though it went up so much in price and now it's finally coming back down as the first He-Man in DC Comics. Let me tell you something. If they ever get that stupid He-Man movie off the ground, that book is going to skyrocket. But I just don't know if it's ever going to happen. I hope it does because I'm a huge Masters Universe fan. That is a book that I think if you get it for cheap, that's a book worth buying. First Legion of Monsters is a book I would buy as well. I'd rather have each individual first appearance, though. First Man-Thing, Ghost Rider, so on and so forth. Toy Biz X-Men run. Thoughts? Dude, I used to love all the... You're talking about the old one, I assume, right? Not the new one? Toy Biz, I don't think it's around anymore. The old ones. I assume you mean the toys. So, like, the Toy Biz run, I used to love. I used to own all those stupid things, man. Every freaking one of them. I used to love them. The Secret Wars ones, too, the toys I used to have, and the DC superheroes, which they've re-released, by the way. The DC superheroes, the blue and superpowers, that's what it is, superpowers. Those are re-released, and I am super tempted to collect those. But the old ones, I think they're highly collectible, but they're not worth a lot of money. Zap Comics has a bunch of them. Every time I go, I'm like tempted to buy them, but they're not worth that much money. So I kind of held off. FF1 2.0, Daredevil 1 2.0, Crow 1 9.0. So I'm going to probably piss off a lot of people when we get to this question, but I'm one of the few people. You see all the books I have right here. I do not own an FF1 anymore. And there's a reason why. That book got really hot, but I sold it way before that. I think the cover of that book does that book injustice, right? The cover, I can't stand the cover. I don't know. I had one copy. I sold it. Barely made any money on that book. It's a hard buy for me. It really is, especially with the price it's at now. As great as the Fantastic Four are, I can't go out and buy that book anymore. I don't know. Something about that book I can't buy. Daredevil 1, I love the book. And that's the book I'm going to go with. It's so undervalued. You can get a 2.0 for probably just under $3,000 right now. I have a 2.0. The Crow 1, again, I love the book. I want the book, but what's pushing it higher? Only Crow fans. If they ever decide to remake that movie, that book will go explode. But I don't think they're ever going to do it. I think there's too many people who would be up in arms if they remade the movie, but I think they should. I 100% think they should. Thinking 2.5 to 4.0. What is the best price you'd pay? I've seen a 3.5 for $12.50. That seems reasonable. Yeah, I think that's a great price. So there was a guy I was talking to on Instagram. He was a dealer and he was on one of the live shows and he had he had two raw copies. One was a 4.0 and one was a 3.0. And he wanted like 3,300, which I thought was too much money. I had offered him 3,000 and he didn't answer me for like 2 weeks. And then unfortunately I had a death in my family and he came back to me at the end. I'm like, I can't deal with this right now. So I said, I can't do it. But I think if you got a 3.5 for $12.50, I think that's a great deal. 100% great deal. I would buy it, especially if it's a nice presenting copy, blue label, I assume. Yes, 100% I would buy that book. Especially everybody thinks about high grade, but they never think about how they're going to sell it. The lower the grade, the more easy it is for people to buy. True collectors. I think people who buy high grades, a lot of time you may get some investors out there, not as so much collectors. You'll always find collectors for lower grades. That's the way I look at it. 4.0 would be the sweet spot on that book. I will say that. But I think 1250 is a great buy for 3.5. Dude, Rob, sell me that book. No joke. You have Savage Tales 1 and a 9.4. I want it. Message me after this. If you really want to sell it, I'm interested. You probably won't, of course, but you can't find the book anymore. If you find it, like the highest one I saw was an 8.0, and I really thought about it, but I'm like, do I want a higher grade or not? Especially in a magazine style book. I think a higher grade is probably a little bit better, but that's a great buy by you. That's going to be a huge book someday. You shouldn't sell it unless you sell it to me. I'll put it that way. Yes, 91. Yeah, I agree, man. Those toys are awesome. I think they're collectible. I just don't think they're worth a lot of money. But I do think they're collectible. I think they're the packaging, which is what makes it, right? If they're sealed and packaged, that's what makes it. The new retro Spider-Man stuff, that's why I collected, is because of the packaging. Same with the toy-based stuff, the Secret War stuff, the superpower stuff. The packaging is what makes the thing, not the toy. If you ever been to SDCC, I've never been. My girlfriend's parents live in Chula Vista. I will hopefully make it out there next year, by God. I've never been to SDCC. I tell you what, if this channel ever blows up, I will go out there and I will stream live for you guys. But I'm doing New York because that's where I'm from. But if we ever get big, which I highly doubt, but if we ever do, I will do that for you guys. Any option on Vision #1? First flaming carrot. Nah, not my thing, man. I hate to be honest. Not my thing. FF48, there are pretty 3.5s and not so pretty 3.5s. Yeah, I same thing. If it presents well, it's worth it. But 3.5, is a 3.5. I also look at page quality, right? Off-white to white is what I want on most of my books, if not better. So keep that in mind. I don't like the cream to off-white stuff. If I could stay away from it, I will, unless it's like a book that I really want in my collection. Like I think if you go to an FF5 or a Hulk 1, like you just get the book if it's a blue label, in my opinion, and it presents nice. I just got my Hulk 1 back, and it's better presenting than my last copy. That's why I switched it over, and it's signed by Stan Lee. Presentation matters, all right? Especially if you display your books or you're trying to sell your books. That's what I think a lot of people go for, is how they look. Not so much the grade. Yes, the grade, but I think presentation matters more. No, it's 3K is an achievement for me. I will say that. I don't put out a lot of videos. I try to do more. I had the whole Copper Drop series out there, but then the market went south, and I started thinking, there's really not a lot of books I want to be buying right now, and there's a lot that I want to be selling. Actually, I take that back, because no one should be selling anything for the most part. Hold on right now, because now's the worst time to sell. Usually the fall picks up a little bit. So if you're going to sell a book, wait till the fall and it'll pick up a bit. But we're kind of in a lull right now because of what's coming out film wise, what's coming out show wise. And now that the Avengers are done for the most part, like we really need some build up, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to build up. So we got to wait through the lull right now. Once we get Doom, that's when I think things will pick up. FF movie, pick up. Avengers, Secret Wars, pick up. But you got another couple years. I mentioned to my manager I'm into comics, and he drops the old. I think I have some comics up at my mom's farm. ASM 5, X-Men 4, FF6, FF52, Avengers 8. Those worth anything. My jaw dropped. Yes. Does he want to sell them? You should pounce on that. Say, yes, they are, and I'm willing to give you 50% of what they're worth. Or you could piece them out and sell them on eBay and take, 13% hit and pay shipping. I think that's every collector's dream, finding collections like that. I just actually, somebody messaged me the other day, and I went out to look at something, and then there's literally a box of modern stuff, which I took and donated to my LCS. So it happens. I don't ever get messaged for collections, really. I would love to pick up a collection. I had a guy who lived in my town message me, and he's got an amazing collection, but he wanted way too much money than even what they're worth. And I couldn't pay what they're worth. I'd have to pay like 70% on the dollar, which I would do, but I can't pay over what they're worth, right? Or even close to what they're worth to take everything. I send you a picture of my Spider-Man room. Still have those 90s Spider-Man animated still hanging on display. Love them. Thank you, dude. I will check that out as soon as we get off here. Thank you for all the messages and the love. I appreciate this, guys. Love hanging out with you guys. I really do, because I've made some great friendships on here. I can't tell you. Love Copper Drop. Thank you, man. Like I said, I want to do it more, but like, I don't want to just tell people to buy stuff just to buy stuff or drop stuff just to drop stuff. That's not my thing. I want to be helpful. And I think when I've done them, I think for the most part I'm on, but I may have, jumped the gun on some, but I think if you're a long term, you're fine either way. So, I want to bring it back, but I got to wait till it's time they say, hey, we got to pounce or we got to drop. Just don't want to throw stuff out there just to throw it out there. I'm planning on STCC next year. Just experience it. Let's do a mighty group meetup, dude. I might have to take you up on that. So if we can get a group of people together who want to go and go as a group, I'd be totally down with that. So we got a year to think about it. I don't know when tickets go on sale, but that's something we could talk about. So till then, somebody try to maybe get a group together. Bone One, any thoughts? So this is a great question. I think somebody asked me this the last time we had a live show. So they were supposed to they optioned that for either show or a movie or something, and then they scrapped it. So it got hot for a while. Now I think it's going to be a tough sell. So I wouldn't buy it for sure. And I think if you own it, it's going to be a tough sell right now. I try, man. I try. You know what? It's not even that. I just try to I try to go for my own experiences because when I got back into collecting, I didn't have anybody to kind of help me. I just kind of went with my gut. And I still do that to this day. I go with my gut. And now I have a little bit more info with GPA and eBay last sales and Comic Link last sales, stuff like that. I don't really track the auctions too much because that's what GPA does it for you. So I don't go nuts about looking through all that stuff. So GPA has been very helpful. A lot of people use it. I don't really use Go Collect, stuff like that. I use the Key Collector app just for the Hot 10, and I use it for not for prices, but just to find out what people are looking at, right? What people are looking to buy. And then I kind of put my thoughts together and say, is it worth it? Yeah, Cadet, are you in the area? I would definitely do NYCC group because I'm going on the Friday. I got a lot of film, a lot of content, but definitely down to meet up. Anybody who's going, do me a favor. If you're going, I know I put this on Instagram, so a couple people out there. If you're going to NYCC, message me on Instagram, Lawrence_the_MCG, or you can email me at THEMIGHTYRPH@gmail.com. It's in the description of every one of my videos. Message me because I definitely want to meet everyone up, even if we just go to the show. I'll do some filming. We'll hang out, grab something to eat, talk, look through comics together. Like that's the whole part of going, right? I'll have my stepson with me, but he's like going to be like my de facto film guy. He's going to be filming me, and I'll be on the mic. Yeah, man. I appreciate how Phil and honest you are. Not to mention not to mention how humble, considering all the wall keys behind you. This is years of buying stuff at the right time. It's not like this is me not bragging or anything. It's just I got back into this stuff like right before the whole thing hit, and I was so lucky at that time to get in when I got in. So when you get in at the right time, you're able to buy low and sell high. And then once you have some extra cash, you can kind of put it to some of the other stuff. So that's exactly how I did it. I'm not, I don't have a lot of money by any means. I built the arcade behind me. Like I didn't, buy that. I built it. So stuff like that. It really is so much about timing. Tools out there are great. Use the tool. Exactly right, man. There's a lot of stuff out there. Somebody mentioned to me about the CGC boards, how helpful they are, and you're able to buy a lot of books. I haven't used them personally, but just I would be careful because if you don't know someone, you don't know somebody. GPA is definitely something I always recommend to everybody. I think it's like $100 a year. Not that bad. And all the prices are at your fingertips. But if you don't want to use that, you just go on eBay and look at the last sales for certain books. It really does help. You can kind of figure it out from there. Where in PA, dude? I went to school in Philly. So are you closer to Philly or closer towards like Western PA? But yes, or Bucks County. I have a roommate who lived in Bucks County. So definitely, dude, anybody who wants to go to NYCC, thing is you have to get tickets. I don't know if you can get tickets now, like if you don't have them already. I think you probably buy them on the secondary market, but that was the right time, man. That was even before I got into the game, 2008, 2013. It's like probably like prime pickings because it's like right after the MCU got started. It's like right as like they got out of the gate. Like you knew, like I knew when the first Iron Man job, like wow, that's still to this day one of my favorite MCU movies. Iron Man 1. I could watch that movie anytime, any day. Like that got me back into it. I'm like, all right, here we go. This is about to go down. It just brought back so many memories that I had to get buy the comics back. Allentown. Okay, that's not too far from like that area of PA. So yeah, definitely, man. If you're up for it and you got tickets, I'm only going the Friday. So if you're gonna go, I'll definitely meet up with you. So you're Bucks County, Phil. There you go, man. I have my college roommate is from Bucks County, PA. So shout out to Tom if you're out there watching somewhere, buddy. Know a lot of dudes from Bucks County. So obviously I went to school in Philly, so a lot of people out there were from that area. Cheers, man. All right, so it's like 10 to 9. I've been on this thing for about an hour and 35 minutes. So I'm gonna give it to like 9 o'clock, then I'm gonna jump off. But this has been like so much fun, man. Anybody has any more questions? I'm still working on getting a dealer here to kind of come on with us because I think it's invaluable to have their opinion and then get somebody who's like also a collector. And then I'm a collector as well, but like somebody besides me to kind of go back and say, well, this is what I look for. And then maybe what is what I look for. And then the dealer say, hey, I have people saying that, or people are looking for the exact opposite of that. Um, I think collectors look at certain books a certain way and dealers look at those books a certain way as well. So it's great to kind of have that mesh. I really want everybody out there to experience that because I think it will help you guys. A lot of money was 15,000 to 20,000 other than real big books. I mean, 15,000, 20,000 is a real book a big book in my opinion. That's a lot of money, man. I trust me, the first time I bought a big book, I was like crapping my pants. I was like, am I making the right decision? Am I getting scammed? Blah, blah, blah. But the first big book I bought, like 5-figure book, was from a reputable dealer, so Metropolis. So I felt a lot more comfortable. That's what happens. I'm with you. I probably did the same thing. I probably started collecting mid 80s and then on and off for same thing, 40 plus years. So, or 35 plus years, 37 years. It's just what happens. Like as a kid, you're all over it and then life happens and then you get back into it and then life happens again. And then the MCU happens and then we're all through it again. And then it's like, I remember this from when I was a kid and I love that. And now I'm bringing it back and then I'm bringing it into my kid's life. And now it's kind of become this whole big thing. Now I have a freaking YouTube channel over it. So, the thing is, when I started this YouTube, I watched like all these guys talking about comics. And I'm like, some of the guys are like, wow, like I really know what he's saying. I totally agree. And the other guys are like, oh man, I don't know what this dude's talking about. So, I mean, everybody has a preference. To me, like I come on, I talk silver, I talk bronze, I talk keys. And there are guys out there, gals out there talking about modern stuff, and that's their thing. And I think that's awesome. But I'm like a relatively no-name channel. I want to get out there, not for, popularity wise, but I just want to get out there and just meet everybody. Get on it, get everybody out there that comments on my videos. Come on the channel. Let's talk. Get you on here. Let's hear what you talk about. What books you're looking for, stuff like that. That's what I want. It's just like that's what we want as collectors. Let's talk about stuff that we have similarities in. That's what it comes down to, right? So I guess that's it, guys. Thank you again for joining me for tonight. I had a blast. I can't always get on here and do live streams, but when I can do it, it's so much fun. I always try to do it on a Friday because I don't really have anything going on Saturday morning, but hopefully, we can get some people to come on Friday nights. During the week is tough because I get up so early. What are your predictions for Phase 5 in the MCU? I think they have it mapped out for the most part. It's going to be Secret Wars. I think at the end of Secret Wars, you're going to see Spider-Man get the symbiote. I just think that's it. That's the next arc there. I think they can introduce Doctor Doom. I'm hearing rumors that Doctor Doom is going to be the one to kill Kang. It's so many things I'm hearing right now. It's like I don't know what's true, I don't know what's not. Definitely, I think Doom is going to play a big part in what's going on in after Avengers 5. 100%. It just seems like that's what they're doing. He plays a big part in Secret Wars. It's just where they're going after Secret Wars. It's anybody's guess. It's how they get the X-Men in here is going to be a big thing. And I don't know. Yeah, dude, definitely do that. You have my info. Reach out. I would definitely love to meet up. Thanks, Phil. I really appreciate that, buddy. Have a great evening. One shot. All right, guys. I'm signing off. This is Lawrence at Mighty Comics and Collectibles saying thank you for watching. Always appreciate you guys. And I'll talk to you guys soon.